Time Travel Tuesday. My name is Emery, and this week at Billings Farm we're learning all about gardens. Now, with the help of Fannie Farmer, I'm going to highlight a vegetable that's coming out of the garden right now that's super fresh and delicious. So today we're going to make Fannie Farmer's asparagus soup recipe. Now, it's a great alternative to just sauteing asparagus in a pan or steaming it, so it's nice, fresh, and delicious, but still is something warm for some of those maybe chillier spring evenings. So it's a very simple recipe, very easy to make. So let me show you the ingredients that I've measured out and we'll get started. So over here I have 1 medium onion sliced, maybe about 1/4 of an inch. It'll all break down in the soup. I have 1/4 cup of flour and 1/4 cup of butter. That's about 4 tablespoons. I have my asparagus. I snapped the harder part of the ends off, trimmed the stalks, and then reserved my asparagus tops for the end of the recipe because they cook faster than the stalk. I have 3 cups of vegetable broth here, and then 2 cups of Billings Farm milk. The first step in our recipe today is to cook the asparagus. So we do that by taking just the stalks that I cut up and then putting it into a pan with some cold water. So I'll dump them right in. And we're gonna bring this to a boil on the stove and then time it for 5 minutes, shut it off, and then strain the water out, keeping the partially cooked stalks for the next step in the recipe. So I've just drained out all of the water from the first boil with the asparagus. It's starting to get a little more broken down, but the next step to fully cook that and cook the onions as well is we're gonna add the onions to the asparagus, and then also pour in our vegetable stock. And then bring all of this back to a boil, not a heavy boil, just a really nice gentle boil, and then let that cook for 30 minutes. And that will fully cook the asparagus and also cook the onions. While our asparagus soup is cooking, in the meantime, while you're waiting, because it'll take the half an hour to cook the asparagus, we're going to make the roux, which is the thickener for the soup, using the 1/4 cup of butter and the 1/4 cup of flour. It's very easy to do. I've melted my butter in my pan, and it's nice and hot. I'm going to put it back on the burner, and then we're going to add in the 1/4 cup of flour and give that a stir around with either a whisk or a spatula, and the butter and flour will combine, and then you're going to let it cook for just a couple of minutes. It'll sort of get nice and toasty, and the flour will get a little bit deeper in color. That sort of cooks the flavor of the flour out, and then use this as the thickener for when our asparagus and onions finish cooking, and then we can strain it all into our roux as the thickener for our soup. This is what the soup looks like after everything's been cooking for a half an hour. The asparagus, you can see, is definitely not as a bright green color. It's nice and soft, as well as the onions are very translucent. Next step is to essentially cream the soup together. Fannie Farmer would have strained it out, and then using a mesh strainer or a sieve, strain the liquids through, and then used a spoon to push the solids through the end so it would create a nice creamy texture. I'm going to do the same, but I'm going to use a stick blender. And then after we stick blend everything together, I'm going to add the roux to this mixture, stir it around, and then we'll be able to finish the soup. So I've finished blending our asparagus soup. I've put it back on the burner so it's a little bubbly, but it's nice and smooth. What I'm going to do is we're going to incorporate this into the roux, because I don't want to dump the roux into the pot because it could cook fast and there could be chunks. So an easy way to avoid getting chunks in your roux is to take a ladle and then scoop some of your blended asparagus and onion mixture right into the roux while it's still nice and warm, and then mix it around so you can get what happened. It got a little bit thick, so you're going to incorporate more of your asparagus until it becomes nice and smooth, and then add the 2 mixtures together. That's much better. So I'm going to add my roux, nice and smooth, into my asparagus mixture. and give it a stir around. So it got a little bit thicker, and we just want to make sure that we have all of it out of our pan. So I'm just going to scrape the rest into our pot with the soup. That's quite bubbly. So we're going to stir this around. And then slowly incorporate our milk. So pour a little bit in at a time and give that a nice gentle stir. And the soup will get nice and creamy. And then we will finish adding the rest of our milk. Stir it around and incorporate the tips of the asparagus because they don't need a longer cooking time. And then we'll cook this mixture all together, I guess in between 5 to 10 minutes. Not really high heat, a little bit less than a simmer. And that way it'll just get nice and smooth, maybe a little bit thicker, and then we will be ready to enjoy soup on a cold spring evening. So I'm ready to dish out our lovely asparagus soup. We'll get a ladle going in here. It's just slightly thicker than it was before. Lovely creamy, you have the asparagus tops, really nice and tender. It smells just delicious. Get another ladle full in here. And then just as a little extra special, you can put a crouton on top if you have those lying around, but I have a lovely fresh chop of parsley. So there it is, a bowl of soup for you and your family to enjoy on a colder spring evening. If you have any questions about this video, please leave it in the comments below, and we look forward to seeing you next week for Time Travel Tuesday.